So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Nigel Apperley, who's the founder at Trustist. So, Nigel, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Trustist, what you do, and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thanks, Chris, and it's a real pleasure to be here today. Obviously, we've known each other for quite a few years now.
We have indeed.
I set Trustist up in 2014. It's the fourth business that I've set up. I've had three previous exits. And really, the business was set up because of my experience working at QuickFit. So at QuickFit, I wanted to see if there was a correlation between collecting reviews and revenue.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we tried all the usual suspects of Trustpilot, FIFO, Bizarre Voice, and Reputation.com. And it didn't actually surprise me that there was no increase in revenue whatsoever. So then I asked 40 of the branch managers to collect Google reviews. And over a 3-month period, their sales increased by 50%, which is staggering.
Wow.
So I went to the CEO and said, we've got a £500 million business here now. How would you like to have a £750 million business within 3 or 4 months? And he said, we can't afford to grow that fast. It would ruin the brand. So I was absolutely gobsmacked.
Wow.
And so I thought, well, I'm going to have a go at this myself then. So I just sold one of the companies I talked about. So I had about £300,000 in the bank. And I set up Trustist in 2014, August 2014. And I soon realized that not many people, only a third of people, have a Google account or YouTube
Yes.
account, and leave a
Yeah.
Google review. So we needed to find another way of allowing those 2/3 of people to collect reviews. And we've developed the system and processes over the last 10 years, so that we make it easy for people to leave reviews. So we will give every location of every business that we deal with a unique link and a unique QR code. So if you were with me, Chris, you could say, could you leave a review for my action coach, please? Spin up a QR code. I'd then scan the QR code and it would give me two options. The first option would be Google. The second one would be an action coach branded version of our platform.
Yep.
What we found with our biggest client, for example, is they were using Trustpilot before us. They continue to use Trustpilot, but in the 5 years we've been working with them, we've helped them collect 170,000 reviews, and that's across all the Timpson brands. So Max Billman, Snappy Snaps,
Yeah.
Johnson, Venus, Columbine, and all the rest of them that they've got. In the same, so Trustpilot 2,000, us 170,000. Trustpilot score is 3.9 because it's an open platform and therefore open to abuse. And guess where a sacked employee goes first after they've walked out the door.
Yeah.
So, and then with us, it's a rating of 4.8. So not only have we helped them collect more reviews, we've helped them collect better reviews because ours is a closed review form. You can only do it by invitation. You've got to be standing in the shop, or in your case, you've got to be with your client either face to face or by sending out the link or QR code.
Yeah, brilliant.
So now, just to bring us up to speed, we've got 15,000 clients all over the world, but predominantly UK. And in the last 2 years, we've been working on our payments solutions as well. So we've taken on board open banking, and we have 2 propositions there. It's all under the payments umbrella, of course. We have 2 propositions there. One is Trustist Transfer, where in person I can spin up a QR code, see where the similarity is coming from here.
Yep.
Spin up a QR code, you scan the QR code and say, yep, I owe you 10 quid or whatever the number is. I accept the transaction. It automatically opens your banking app, whichever bank you're with. You authorize the payment by use of your fingerprint or face, depending on the technology you've got on your phone. And the money is instantly in the retailer's account with no possible risk of chargeback. So it's secure, fast, and it's cheaper. So Typically, someone with PayPal or WorldPay or someone like that might be paying about 2%. Some are lower than that if they're a big business. Some are higher than that if they're a small business. We charge 0.29%. And the
Wow.
other, yeah, so up to 90% cheaper.
Yep.
And obviously the other advantages of being instant, etc. Then we've got Trustist e-commerce, which is the same platform, but it's used for e-commerce websites, and we can do some clever stuff for people like estate agents and gyms where we can set up standing orders which start immediately. So imagine going into a gym, you do the trial session, the person behind the desk goes, here's your pack, fill it in if you want to, and send it back. Conversion rates of 10, 12%.
Yep.
If you spin up a QR code there and then, if they're tire kicking, they're going to walk out, but 70 to 80% are going to sign up there and then. So
Yep.
it's a very cost-effective way of getting people onto subscriptions.
Brilliant.
Finally,
Yeah,
we've
keep going.
we started franchising in the last year. So we did all the documentation June, July, August, and September, and then we started to market the franchise. And we've just signed up our 15th franchisee, and they're starting to make sales now. So okay, the franchise fee is very nice to get, but the long-term aim of us doing all of that is there are 5.1 million SMEs in the UK, and I haven't got time to go around them all. So getting other people to do it for us and giving them an unlimited earnings opportunity is great for both of us.
Nice, nice, absolutely fascinating. As you said, it's a great way to build a sales force, isn't it? A sales force in different areas, different and locally, without, as you say, needing to employ lots and lots of people.
Unlike Action Coach, which again is a franchise,
Yes.
You've got a geography. Ours is non-geographic, so there's a slight difference there.
Yeah, we used to, funnily enough, we were still geographic, but operating collaboratively in a larger area, and we always found that worked fine. You know, with the right collaboration, it's because a lot of us would work more sector specific than geographical specific. So I totally get that. And with the world of technology now, it is a bit pointless having geographical splits, other than, yeah, people like, sometimes like to work locally, but all good. So obviously we said we met some time ago, and you're obviously growing the business quite profoundly since then. What, Nigel, would you say some of the biggest issues you've had to overcome as you've grown?
Non-recognition of the brand in the early years.
Right.
And so to get the brand better known, we started entering competitions to win awards.
Yeah.
And a great example of that is last year we were awarded the Supplier of the Year with Action Coach, for example.
Yes.
So that all builds our profile, and then getting into networks as well. So we supply to the Action Coach network. We do your growth clubs. So every quarter we have a busy couple of weeks whilst those are going on, but we get a great amount of business out of that. It's well worth our time and effort, and obviously attendance at BizX as well, which is great. And then last year we were in the Kensington, Chelsea and Westminster Chamber of Commerce Awards, we were the Employer of the Year.
Oh, wow.
And then we've got quite a few awards over the years, and I think that's been the biggest help. So that's how we address that particular problem.
Brilliant. And looking at both this business and obviously you've had a successful business career historically. What are some of the biggest learnings you've had about growing a business? So obviously we talk about challenges, but what's some of the key to running a great business?
You're not going to like this because you're an action coach, but I think just give it a go and get on with it. I mean, you can do all the planning in the world, but the best market research is trying it.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's probably the biggest. And then which type of people you mix with is so important. There's no point in. And some of the networking groups that we as an organization belong to are okay. And some you run out of steam fairly quickly. But the best one that I attend is a group called Helm, which used to be called the Supper Club in London. So every month we have 8 CEOs and founders. People that aren't a CEO or founder aren't allowed into the network.
Yep.
And we once a month, there's 8 of us that get together and we discuss our issues and problems, and we help each other solve those problems. You'll know as well as I that if you're in a business or even working on it, which is an action coach point and a very good one, you sometimes can't see the wood for the
Yep.
trees. And so that's really helpful. And then there are several groups within there: the SaaS group, e-commerce group, B2B, B2C group. There's loads. But then also you've got the other 500 entrepreneurs that are in there, and you've got WhatsApp groups that you can ask a question in. So I had a particular question which I asked today, which was, I only do 4 or 5 press releases a year. Does anyone know a PR agency that doesn't need a retainer? Because
Yeah.
I don't need that. And within a few minutes, I had 5 or 6 replies about people who could help me. I mean, it's just amazing. And then there's the dinners and lunches. So I pay £500 a month for that, which sounds like a lot of money, but the value I get from it is just immense.
Wonderful.
If I just looked at it at a purely financial level, the lunches, dinners, breakfasts that I attend, they're covered by the £500 a month without all the other benefits.
Yeah.
So as long as you get busy with this sort of stuff, it's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think so. I think someone, I know it's not specifically networking, but so I remember someone talking about networking saying it's networking, not net breakfasting, or it is about making it work, isn't it?
No, you've got to put the time and effort in. And most people, when they start networking, maybe not shy is the wrong word, but they're uncomfortable with
Yes.
networking, to say the least. Go to 5 or 6 and you'll soon be up to speed and able to do it. I mean, openers are, have you traveled far this evening, this lunchtime? What's your business all about then? Just, it's really easy to get into
Absolutely.
conversations with people, and you can usually tell within a minute whether they're going to be worth speaking to and taking to the next stage as well.
Absolutely. We often talk to people about, general influencing is people that are interested become interesting to the other person. So it's just about taking interest in somebody else. All of a sudden they will be interested in you. And that's, as you said, so questions about them are the most relevant things. And they're very straightforward things, aren't they? We don't need to be clever in that. It's just simple questions.
Yeah, I mean, how much have you grown in the last year? Did COVID impact your business? What are your plans for the future? They're all easy questions to think of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And as you've already said, we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you work with, or influencers, mentors, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you, Nigel?
I think well, the biggest one was a case study at Cranfield University when I was doing my MBA back in 1999. There was a lecture about Dell Computer Corporation, and Michael Dell's share price had bumbled along for years, and all of a sudden he said, "I'm going to sell on the internet," and it went like that. So I
Yes.
thought, there's something in this internet malarkey,
Yeah.
and all of my businesses have been internet-based ventures. So that's probably the biggest. But going back to Helm, the people within that group are so incredibly helpful and knowledgeable about business. And it comes back to that point I made earlier about hang out with the people that are going to make you successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. And have you picked up any favourite quotes or sayings that you use on a regular basis, specifically around business?
Yeah, well, I use this in business meetings when I'm asked for a fun fact. So my fun fact is that my wife and I had a pact last year at the beginning of the year to eat in, not eat out, eat in 4 times a month, and we've failed. We failed every month. Yeah,
Oh my goodness! So you're out a lot.
a fair amount. Yeah.
And in terms of looking back on your career so far, what have you learned about yourself through your journey so far, Nigel?
Well, I guess when I set my first business up back in 1999, I didn't know much about business. The MBA helped a bit just to get jargon proficient, really, more than
Right.
anything. Um, but yeah, just I was able to give it a go and able to make it a success. And I'm actually not a bad decision maker.
Yep.
Uh, and that, when 2008 and the financial crisis happened, I had to go back into the world of employment, which was a real shock to me because big organizations don't make the right decisions for the right reasons, whereas smaller organizations are much more agile,
Yeah.
can do things quickly, take advantages of gaps in markets and get there faster.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Go on.
the learning really is that I think a lot of people are going to be wage slaves forever. And that's fine because they build up a nice pension and they can have their 2 or 3 holidays a year in retirement. I've only got a few 100,000 in my pension scheme, which isn't going to see me very far, especially with my eating habits into retirement. So my pension plan is my business.
Yeah.
So when I exit from my business, it will be for hopefully many millions of pounds, which will see me through. So yeah, it gives you more confidence to do exciting, interesting, and fun
Yeah.
things. Um,
Yeah.
so no 2 days are the same in business. It can be hard. And my first business went through administration, which was, and then some of my mates competed with me to buy the business. So that was really tough. One mate in particular, and yeah, so it's a roller coaster, but it's a very worthwhile roller coaster, and it's taught me an awful lot. Not
Brilliant.
stuff that I probably wouldn't learn in employment because you learn other things in employment. You go on courses about whatever. Whereas an entrepreneur, you make it up as you go along, largely.
Yeah, and it I think there's a lot you learn about people, including ourselves, in that than perhaps you do in employment, where it's more about what you do rather than who you become, I guess. In many cases, I'm sure that's not totally true, but and so looking forward a little bit now, what does the future look like for you guys, and what are some of the challenges you might face if any as you continue to grow?
Well, unusually in this business, I've made it clear to the team that I do intend to sell it in a few years.
Yep.
And based on that, I've set up an EMI scheme. So most of them will be in for £50,000 as long as we sell for 10 million.
Yep.
And one person's in for £250,000. So my team's based in York, and
Yep.
£250,000 in York will buy you somewhere to live. So there's an incentive there for them to help me on the way. But getting the business ready for sale, and people should never underestimate getting a business ready for
No.
sale, is incredibly hard work. So I know that's going to be a challenge. But because I've been there before, I've started doing the work for that already. So, for example, I'm getting our international trademarks as we speak, which is pretty much a year-long process once you've
Right.
waited for people to see it on the register and everything else that you need to do. Making sure our accounts stack up is incredibly important. I know Action Coach made a big deal out of that, and rightly so. And then choosing the right M&A firm. You can't do that mergers and acquisitions firm. You can't do that early enough. So I've already identified, I've done a beauty parade of my own
Yep.
of potential people, and I've come up with the one. There's a lot of spray and pray people out there, which if it goes wrong, your reputation's done. So
Yep.
you don't want people that. And the way this journey started was I was at a networking event in Bristol, which I go to quite regularly, called EWIF, Encouraging Women into Franchising.
Okay.
And there was someone from Coutts Bank there. And the people listening to this podcast probably know this already, but you've either got to have £1 million in cash or £1 million in debt in order to get a
Yes.
Coutts account. And so obviously I haven't got that at the moment, but hopefully the valuation of my business will mean that does happen sometime in the next few years. And I went along to a day there. And if you can get yourself onto one of those days at one of the private banks, they're really worthwhile doing. I
Right.
learned a lot that day. Just a funny point about that. One of the ladies from Coots said she was an account manager, so she had, I don't know how many people that she looked after, but she said in the first 6 months of when you receive the lump sum, she makes them not spend any money on anything apart from a holiday. Because a lot of people will go and, have a share of a private jet or a boat or something, and then realize they can't actually afford
Yeah.
to keep on it. So yeah, that was fun. But I also met one of the M&A teams on that day, and they did a really good presentation. And what you'll find with the private banks is as well is that they'll have a panel of M&A specialists.
Yeah.
So Coots has got 12 on their panel. And I've interviewed a couple of them and chosen which one I'm going to go for. During COVID, this particular M&A specialist got 100% of businesses sold. Some where they thought the valuation at the beginning of the process was, let's say, 5 million, and they got it away for 200 million. And those are the people that you need to be talking to. Not they
Yeah.
they might be the cheapest, but if they're going to get you an enormous sum of money at the end of the day, that's where you need to go.
Yep, that makes absolute perfect sense. It's yeah, it's the result that it's the return on the investment, isn't it? Ultimately, it doesn't. It really the size of the investment is less critical to the return you will get in investing that money.
So let me tell you what the terms are then. So it's £50,000 up front, and the company can pay that. And then it's 2% of what they get for you.
Right. Now that's quite significant. That is quite significant investments, but as you rightly say, an extra even 0.1 of a multiple on profits can that probably covers that quite comfortably. Let alone multiple units.
Well, that's part of the reason I moved us from being a SaaS platform to being a fintech
Right.
provider.
Yep.
SaaS valuations are what, 5-6 times EBITDA. If you've got a unicorn in fintech, you can get 15 times revenue.
Yeah.
So it's a
Yeah.
huge difference. One's EBITDA, one's revenue, and the multiple's higher of revenue anyway. So
Okay. Yeah. Really interesting. Yeah. No, yeah. That's very interesting. Um. And given all whatever we've talked about, I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now.
okay, that's a really difficult question. It's a really good question. Um, you're going to have enough money to weather the first few months unless you can do it part time. Um, and if you're young, I would say organisations like yours, of which there's a few, but yours is probably the best I've come across. It's very helpful to get into the routine of 90-day planning and all that sort of
Yes.
stuff that you do. Um, but then speak to other people that have been there, and most people, the vast majority of people, will give you their advice. So
Yeah.
get busy on LinkedIn. Make it clear that you're not selling to them, because that's the biggest pain in the neck with LinkedIn. And say, I'm thinking of starting my own business. I see you've got XYZ and you've made a huge success of it. Flattering people never harms the cause.
Absolutely.
And then, either meet them in person, even if you've got to travel to Birmingham or Manchester to do it, and then buy them a drink, buy them lunch, whatever they like doing, and yeah, get their thoughts on what your business plan might be. And quite often, I mean, I was at a networking event a couple of weeks ago, and there was a wealth manager there that works with my solicitors, and she'd come up with this plan to put an accountant, a lawyer, wealth manager, and potentially a few other people together to help people that had started their business but
Yeah.
were looking to exit at some point. But because I've exited 3 times, they bought me a drink. They came to my club in central London, and I went through it all with them and gave them some ideas. I didn't charge them for that. I bought them a coffee. But yeah, people like helping other people. I
Yes.
think it's calm.
Completely agree.
If you help someone, it always comes back. You get the odd person, but not very often.
No, I completely agree, and we operate that in my business here, where if people need our help, then they get it, irrespective of their ability to pay, and we get multiple back in different ways, whether that's that person becoming successful and ultimately, having a commercial arrangement, the referrals that we get, just the goodwill and feeling that we get from doing so. So we've always operated with, or certainly have for quite a long time, and it's always been a successful strategy of just helping people. And
Most professional advisors as well will give you the first hour without
yeah,
charging, whether they're an accountant or a lawyer. It doesn't matter whether they're Allen and Overy or Deloitte, they'll still give you the
yes.
first. Yeah.
And if you started again, is there anything significant you do differently, do you think, Nigel?
Yeah, probably loads of things. um, I need to take my own advice sometimes, and acting quickly is something I do most of the time, but sometimes I can take too long to make a decision.
Yeah,
So the worst example I have of that was my first business was valued at 28 million in 2003.
right.
Amazon came into the market and killed it for me.
Yeah.
And so I only ended up getting 2.8 million. So 90% drop in the valuation of the business. Had I not thought, well, 28 is going to go up to 128 and been a bit greedy, I probably wouldn't be having this conversation with you today.
In, very interesting, and thank you for that. That's a very interesting, bit of learning for people. It is sometimes it's because I think the thing that I found with people I've worked with is thinking it's the only horse, i.e., you have to maximize this one because another one won't come. But if you've proven yourself your ability to build one and sell it, if that wasn't enough, do another one. I mean, you've got the skills, you've got the knowledge, you've got everything you need, and you're doing that in that, and it's a great example of that. And if we remember that we can go again if we want to, then it doesn't have to be. We don't have to maximize what we believe to be the upside of a particular business.
No, and getting a sale for any amount of business should be regarded as a success. I recently took out some debt, £250,000, to accelerate the growth of the franchise and payment side of
Yes,
the business. And I went to Fund Yorkshire because my team's in Yorkshire. And for every, I can't remember what the numbers are, but it's quite a big number. They only back one of them. And because I'd had the experience of three exits and I'd been in this business for quite a number of years, I was the lucky one that they
great,
backed, got the money fairly easily.
great.
And now because I've got experience, maybe starting from the MBA, but I can look at a set of accounts and know what's going on and question the numbers. So every month we just have a monthly, it's in for an hour, but it only takes about 15 minutes. They look at the accounts and they say, yeah, that's okay. And then if they need to dig into it, because they knew that I knew what a set of accounts were, they get the answer from me. So be competent at business skills would be another pointer, I guess.
It's interesting actually. I'm having a conversation with a number of people this week just about different levels. Most people I find certainly that in business aren't as knowledgeable financially as they are in other areas. And it's simple as, most people that start businesses are good at what they do. They're not necessarily good at running a business, what they do, of which the financial side, until you've run a business, if you're as you said, you can go through a very, very successful employed career and never touch any finances whatsoever. So it is understanding that being one of the knowledge and skill sets I think is really important.
I agree. And then one of the things that came out of the MBA for me was I thought the sexy stuff was going to be marketing and all that stuff. But the most enjoyable bit of it was the HR type stuff.
Right.
I did not expect that before I went into it. And
Interesting.
I learned a lot about, Maslow's hierarchy and all that stuff and Belbin team roles, which I've subsequently used. So when I was back in employment, I had a team at Slendertone dotted around the world, which was good fun because I got to go and visit them. Then I use Belbin team roles, so shape a plant, all that stuff,
Yep.
to build the team. And what you don't want is all the team being the same thing because
Yep.
you probably won't get anything done if that's the case.
Yep.
When I was interviewing people for the team, I got them to do the Belbin test and I put the team together on the basis of Belbin, which is something that I'd learned at Cranfield.
Brilliant.
That was when we grew the online sales of Slendertone was the company I was working for. We grew the online sales in 18 months from 3 million to 6 million.
Wow.
So 100% increase just because the team was superb.
Yeah. Yeah. Learning how to lead and build great teams is so fundamental for scaling, isn't it? It's you could be great as a small team, but if we need to scale, we need to learn how and be successful.
I
And
still make mistakes now, though. I mean, I hired a salesman 2 years ago, and in the first week, he said to me, "I'm not going to open up my little black book for this business." And I thought, red flag straight away.
yeah.
And then he set to work on playing with the CRM system for the next 2 weeks. And then I fired him. And then he, because I was so confident in his ability, and he talked such a good story when I interviewed him. And I actually, that after the interview, I took him out for dinner with my wife and myself. That's how
Yeah.
good I thought he was, and he was absolutely useless. And then he hung me out for. I didn't give him a probation period, which was a huge mistake because I thought he was good enough to get on with it. So after 3 weeks, he forced me to give him the balance of 3 months,
Oh,
and for
wow.
for being useless, which was yeah. So you can still make mistakes even when you've been doing it 20 odd years.
Absolutely. And it's just get up and move on, isn't it? That's it. It's we all do it, and it's okay. In fact, Brad Sugar's our founder. I know you know. He told me a long time ago, it's always stuck with me, which was he believes he's successful as he is because he's made more mistakes than anybody else, not despite it, but it was the ability and it was the ability to make decisions, to take action was much more valuable than getting every decision right, but by a long way.
That brings me on to the point where I said I was good at this most of the time. Once you've made that decision, especially around people that you need to get rid of, don't waste time.
Absolutely.
Don't You can give them one chance, but really just get on with it.
Absolutely. Once you know that it's not right, that's the only thing is act on it and make it happen quickly.
Yeah.
And finally, Nigel, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you?
I saw that on the list of questions
Brilliant.
that you sent through to me in advance of this, Chris. Firstly, I can't remember what 18 is like anymore now that I'm 56. So it's 40 years ago almost. But give it a go. If you've got an idea, give it a go. Yeah, that's all. It's probably worth doing a few years in employment so you can work out what the workplace is all about when you're young. And you'll learn stuff from that which you can use when you start your own business anyway. But yeah, give it a go.
Brilliant. Well, Nigel, it's been really fascinating to talk to you, and congratulations on the successes you're having. And for anyone that's watching would like to get in touch with you or Trustist, what's the best way to do that?
For the general email address is info@trustist.com. We've got websites, trustist.com, trustisttransfer.com, and trustistecommerce.com. But if anyone wants to speak to me on the basis that I mentioned earlier, that entrepreneurs like to help people, then my personal email address is nigel.apperley, APPERLEY, @trustist.com.
Brilliant. Well, it'd be great to catch up again in another 6-12 months and just see the next development and how close you are to hitting those goals. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Well, it's been lovely seeing you again after so many years, and thanks for having me. And hopefully, I'll see you at BizX next year.
You will do. Thank you. Thanks, Nigel.